Hello, nation. Welcome to the Haven Nation Show, your destination for all things Lock Haven Athletics. I am your host, Nicholas Severini, coming to you live from the Bear Country Studios' basement in Avis, Pennsylvania, joined by my co-host, as always, Ryan States. Ryan, because of me, and it is my fault for this, we are recording much later in the week than usual. Just needed a couple extra rest days, but we are back and at a crucial point in the season for Lock Haven football. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Didn't work today, so had an easy day. Went to classes, got some Sheetz food before coming over here, hit up the MTO, which I'm a Sheetzaholic, so I do not want to think about how much money in my life I've given to Sheetz, because it is probably a lot. No, doing well today. How are you doing?
Doing good. Got a rest in. It's fascinating because this is the segment, of course, for those of you tuning in for the first time, where we talk about just, our build up to the week leading for another week of athletics. If you want to skip to the Lock Haven stuff, if you're tuning in on YouTube, wait for that hat to flip. It's going to be about 5 minutes time. But anyway, we usually talk about the week that was, not the week as to come. But that's going to be the case, I think, this time, Ryan, because we've got broadcasts that are road trips.
Yep.
3 straight weeks. Last 3 road trips of the season, pending anything crazy that happens in Lock Haven Athletics or anything crazy that happens in my personal broadcasting career, I suppose. But, yeah, we've got Scranton Prep for Jersey Shore football, which I think is going to be a sneaky, tough game for the Bulldogs. Then you've got Lock Haven football on the road for the next couple of weeks. After that, Shippensburg and Millersville, 2 winnable games. And I am excited / stressed as all heck because I always get too anxious about it. I always think about what could happen, what's good, blah, 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 blah. So I'm very much excited for these next 3 weeks in the ability for it to come and go, and I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, the road trips are always, to me, they are some of the more enjoyable parts of doing this. Like, you're just sitting in a car listening to whatever music you have playing. A lot of times it's some girly pop stuff, which is always a classic.
Listen, you're exposing me here a little
some
bit.
Some FIFA music as well thrown in there. Hey, you know me, I'm all about that kind of music, so I'm with it and all that. But no, road trips to me are the funnest part. Looking for food on the way there. You're 30 minutes out, trying to find somewhere to eat. Where'd we go last time we had a road trip? Denny's, I think it was for
Yeah,
Lock
that was
Haven.
a lame one.
Yeah.
It was a lame one, I'd have to admit. But, we're going to try to step it up. Scranton, we won't be able to get food.
I mean, it's hard last year. I mean, we hit up Tudor's Biscuit World as the first one. And it's hard to beat Tudor's Biscuit World. So
shout out to Tudor's Biscuit World, a West Virginia institution right there.
Yeah, it was a good place to eat. Hit us a little bit going into the game. That was Glenville, right? That was the first game of the year?
Glenville State. That was the first road trip, and what a way to have the first road trip.
Yeah, shout out Tudor's Biscuit World, and boy, did we not feel good for the next hour after that.
Let me tell you, that biscuit hits you deep. Can I tell you, and going back to my college days, because I went to college at West Virginia.
Yes, you did.
I can't think of a time I've had Tudor's Biscuit World and not get like a brick in my stomach afterwards. But that's part of the experience. Okay, I have to ask now because we're talking about road trips. We have 3 more to come. We're not getting food obviously tomorrow for Scranton, but we are going to for the next 2, Shippensburg and Millersville. What's been the best food place this year? Because I think the diner we went to in Indiana for IUP is the best.
Yeah, I would have to. That diner was so good. I wish I remembered the name of it. I wish I remembered the name of it because it was so good. But that place, it was right on campus, like right in the middle of that town area. I mean, Bloomsburg doesn't really count. We did get food there, but that's
we did get
kind
the
of
pizza.
Yeah, and the pizza was good, but that was after the game, so it doesn't really count.
Not the same, is it? Not the same.
And no, I would have to agree. That diner in Indiana was so good. I mean, that was. You got the hot chocolate, the classic. I think I just got a chocolate milk, so very chocolate forward. But no, I think that was the best one.
I'm never gonna forget. Because we had but Bloomsburg.
Yeah.
We did the game, and then I had to speed run to Bucknell for a soccer match.
Yep.
Ended 0-0.
Yes,
but,
it did.
That's how it is sometimes. I love going to Bucknell. You know how it is. But it's just part of the broadcasted experiences, doing those types of things. And we have to do that on Friday because I work until 3:15. It is a 2-hour drive to Scranton.
Yep.
We're going to be a little under the wire there. I already got my gas. I'm going to have everything set up ahead of time. But those are the things that I can't stand is not having – I like to be there so early.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that annoys the hell out of you and Tom. To want it, like I think Delaware Valley, we got there 3 hours before.
I mean, for
but that's always been how I am. I'm always an anxious person with it. So hopefully going at a normal time instead of an insanely early time doesn't bite me in the butt at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference, right? Is with the high school games, it's all we're leaving by 3:15. So even if we get there at 5, it's like, well, I'm not waking up at sometimes 5 in the morning. Or last year when there was stuff with my car, I was leaving at 4 in the morning. It was getting up at 4. What was the Glenville State game? I had like 45 minutes of sleep, I think, driving to that game. So
didn't nap once.
I think I did on the way back. Okay. I think on the way back I did. You napped in the press box there. I remember because Casey has the photo of you somewhere.
I think I posted on Twitter.
You did. I think at some point.
We're talking about the Glenville State road trip. It's just such a notable one
because it was a long
4.5 hours.
Yeah.
I woke up at 3:15 in the morning off of 4 hours sleep because I did Montoursville versus Danville. By the way, shout out to the Montoursville Warriors, second in the districts right now, just behind Mifflinburg. Two teams who played close last year. I'm rooting. I root in the background for the Warriors because I had such a good experience broadcasting them last season. So good for them. But anyway, I had to do that game. It took long as heck because Danville and Montoursville ran long.
Yep.
And then I left at 3:30 in the morning, picked you up at 4 from Lock Haven, and on we went.
Yep. I mean, that was, we said 4.5 hours driving through the middle of nowhere. I mean, we passed Frostburg. I think, or no, Fairmont.
We passed
Fairmont
and Frostburg.
Yeah.
If you're we passed West Virginia. We got gas at West Virginia University.
Yeah, because we were,
and we're still
dead center
like
of the
2
state.
hours away.
I mean, we was dead center of the state. Hopefully Lock Haven does not travel back to Glenville this year. I mean, those were fun games, but that drive was not. Hey, at least it could have been worse. It could have been Post.
That is true. Actually, Post was a shorter drive.
Really?
Post was shorter by like a half hour.
Post in Connecticut, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That tells you how close it is. And actually, I'm going to flip the Lock Haven cap. I don't want to interrupt you, and I apologize. But I want to flip the Lock Haven cap because this is Lock Haven related. Because we can say this now because it's on the PSAC website. Lock Haven's schedule for next year came out. Now, we're going to have a real deep dive probably after basketball season about the schedule. But the schedule accounts for weeks 2 through 11. We do not have a week 1 game. As far as I know, and this could be completely useless because I'm wrong, but I was told like a couple years ago that this Glenville contract was a home and home. So that means the Glenville State contract is up. That also means Lock Haven has an open spot for week 1. If you had to pick a team to play for week 1, first year in the PSCC West, okay, I'm not really going to put the carriage before the horse here, but who would you want it to be?
I mean, the obvious answer is Bloomsburg because we do know that Lock Haven, so the way the PSAC works is they play all their PSAC West games now, and they have 3 out of division, or they're considered out of conference PSAC games against teams from the other division. So Lock Haven in the West, next year they'll play 3 PSAC East teams. This year it's Gannon, it's IUP and it was Cal.
Yep.
Those were the 3 West teams they played. Now that Lock Haven bounced to the West, they'll play 3 East teams. I think it's Kutztown is one of them.
Kutztown, East Stroudsburg, Shippensburg.
Yeah. So there's so the obvious answer is Bloomsburg. But I think that's cheating because that is such the obvious answer. So I'm gonna pick one.
Same thing. It's cheating. So like, what would be the other one?
Lincoln. Lincoln is the only other, to my knowledge, Division II school that plays football in Pennsylvania that's not in the PSAC. I did some research on this. This was like last winter. Me and my dad looked at this. Lincoln is, again, to my knowledge, the only Division II football program that's not in the PSAC. Lock Haven used to play Lincoln a lot. In fact, in those years that it was like the 1-11 Lock Haven teams, the one win was always Lincoln.
You're correct.
So I think that's just a fun one to bring back. I mean, you throw out Frostburg or Fairmont would be fun as well. Kind of reach out into the Maryland and West Virginia areas. But I think Lincoln is one that probably makes the most sense just due to there's the history of them playing each other. It's another Pennsylvania school, so it's not you're driving out of state for that one. So the obvious answer is Bloomsburg, but I'll give a sneaky shout out to Lincoln.
I want to stick with, if other than Bloomsburg, obviously, because that's the obvious choice. I would probably want to play a Mountain East school. Somewhere in the MEC. Shout out to Daniel Woods, killing it over at West Virginia State. West Virginia State, of course, doing pretty well in the MEC this season, punching above their weight class. The big one for the MEC would be Charleston, which is ranked.
Yeah.
Both regionally and nationally, in my view. But I would like to keep a non-PSAC team if it wasn't for Bloomsburg. I would go out of conference. Now,
Wheeling
the
could be a fun
MEC.
one.
What's that?
I think Wheeling could be a fun one too. Wheeling College. Are they in the MEC for?
West Lib too.
Yeah.
West Lib, that's in the northern panhandle of West Virginia. As a West Virginia University graduate, lived there in the Mountain State for 4 years. I'm allowed to call it that. If we're talking about distance, Frostburg State would be the easiest one, and selfishly, I wouldn't mind it either. I wouldn't like a little trip to West Lib, though. Stop in Pittsburgh, maybe.
Yeah.
Do something out of that. But yes, that would be probably what I would want. That is very off topic to what I was planning on talking about today.
I
but,
do think
an
MEC PSAC thing could be fun every year. Like every PSAC school, you schedule all your PSAC games. That one out of conference is kind of like an MEC PSAC rivalry. I mean, they're the two bigger conferences in SR Region 1, so I feel like that'd be a fun way to kind of tie that together almost.
I agree. And it's a shame because Glenville State actually kind of works well, and the ride itself, could have been worse. But if we were to change it up, a little maybe Northern Panhandle action, something in the MEC, but, of course, Bloomsburg first on the docket.
Yeah.
First on the docket afterwards now is recapping what Lock Haven did last weekend for football before talking about this week, and it is homecoming week.
Yes, it is.
Obviously makes it always fun. Lock Haven got their homecoming off to a pretty decent start. Women's soccer getting a 1-0 win against East Stroudsburg. I'm pretty sure it was a dramatic late winner in that one as well. Don't think that was the only team. I believe volleyball it wasn't during homecoming week, but came off a pretty impressive sweep against Bloomsburg. That was back on Tuesday, so that was during homecoming. So Lock Haven football trying to create the good vibes. It's going to start with them ignoring what happened last week. Lock Haven 7, 4th-ranked Kutztown 34. And it was very funny because we have both had our fair share of being pessimistic this season. Me at the beginning of the season, you at the midway point in the West. And after properly dissecting everything that took place, I think we were the two happiest people in the press box after that game because, well, let's start with the generosity of it. Kutztown definitely laid the hammer in the first half. They were up by a score of 27-0 at the half. Wound up being 34-7 the final score. The big thing that came out of this, Ryan, was the margin of victory was the closest of any team against Kutztown this season. That includes a very good Assumption team in Week 1. And that includes a couple PSAC East opponents as well. Most recently, Shippensburg, who defeated the Raiders. Kutztown did 49-0. So I made a quote during the broadcast where that stat about Lock Haven keeping it closer than any team that's played Kutztown this season is about as valuable as the party hearing it, but I don't think that's nothing. And I think it stands to prove that Lock Haven in the last couple of weeks have really improved themselves in the second half.
Yeah, Kutztown, their lowest points amount they've scored this game was 34. I think it was against...
This season.
Yeah, this season was 34 points, but that was a shutout victory. So the 27 points that Kutztown won by, like you mentioned, is the closest they've had this season, and it's about as good as you can feel off of a loss of 27 points. I said this last week. I'll reiterate this again. This Kutztown team is one of the best in the country. This is a team that has aspirations much higher than the PSAC. This is not a team that's concerning themselves with if they're going to win the PSAC. This is a team that's concerning themselves with if they're going to win the national championship. There are multiple, I think, guys that will make NFL rosters or NFL practice squads some days, or at least get looks on this Kutztown team. I mentioned their head coach, Jim Clemens, was one. He's a Division I coach, coaching Division II football. There are about 4 or 5 players on that Kutztown team that are Division I players playing Division II football. I mean, it is a different class of team, not just to Lock Haven, but any other of the PSAC teams, especially this year with how congested the PSAC seems to be. I mean, you have Slippery Rock already with 2 losses. Cal has 2 losses, or Slippery Rock has 1, rather. Cal has 2 losses. It really feels like the powers from last year have kind of all mushed themselves into the middle, and there's just Kutztown head and shoulders above everybody else. I mean, this is a team that I think IUP is really the only contender right now I see that could knock them off. I mean, Slippery Rock's always good to be a good team, but
yeah, but they've now fallen off a little bit, especially Cal's fallen off. I think at this point this went from Kutztown versus everybody else in the East to Kutztown versus everyone else in the PSAC, because even IUP, as good as they looked, I still fancy Kutztown over the Crimson Hawks in that.
Yeah, especially again just because of how deep this Kutztown team is, and it's a depth thing for them. They just have guys they can throw at you. Their third strings and their fourth string guys are better than a lot of teams' first strings. I mean, this team is incredible in its own right, and they're going to make a big run this year. But Lock Haven, we'll go back to them. They played the best game anyone has played against Kutztown so far, and I have the stats to back it up here. I was going through some of the stuff, and I looked at the game. Lock Haven held Kutztown to under their season average in rushing yards per game, points per game, and third down conversion rate. And those are three things that Kutztown does really well. They score a lot of points, they're really good on third down, and they run the football a lot. And Lock Haven has done the best, including that Assumption game, against any team Kutztown has played. And Lock Haven also scored over the Kutztown season average in points allowed. Coming into the game, Kutztown averaged allowing 6.2 points per game. Obviously, Lock Haven with a touchdown. They get over that mark. So it is the closest game Kutztown has played this season. Again, it's saying something when the closest game you've played is a game where it was never really in doubt. That's how good Kutztown is. But Lock Haven, I think, played really well in that game. There's a lot of things that they're going to come away with, especially in the second half. Feeling very happy with. Talked about some of the players. I'm sure we'll get into Tucker Teets in the game that he played. Ostrowski looked very much confident in this game. It was a lot different than those games in the West against IUP and Cal.
In their first, I don't have the stat in front of me, but I think in their first 4 games it was, Lock Haven were outscored in the second half 42-0.
Yeah.
And since then, I'm pretty sure it's now 35-7 in favor of Lock Haven in the last 3 games. Kutztown and Bloomsburg, last 2 games, pardon me. So 24-7-ish.
Yeah, it's saying it's 24.
The score differential. The last 2 games, the Bald Eagles were much better in the second half than in the first half. One of them was a win, of course, against Bloomsburg, turned a 1-possession lead into a blowout win. The other came against, of course, Kutztown. It was 7-7, a tie. The easy way to describe it is the Bears took their foot off the gas, but I think when you have the 4th best team in the country, a team taking their foot off the gas should still outscore you in the second half. So what did Lock Haven do adjustment-wise, and how could they turn that into a 4-quarter performance is what I'm wondering after that Kutztown game.
I don't really think, and I talked to a coach after the game, there wasn't really a lot of adjustments made. They didn't really change what they were doing. It was more just kind of getting guys settled into it a little bit more. And we saw that a very similar thing in the game with Cal, right? Where Cal got out to like a 35-0 start in the first half, and when the second half came around, it felt like Lock Haven really settled in, and they were able to run their offense the way they wanted, and it ended up, I think Cal only scored 7 points in that second half. That's another one where Cal had a lot of backups in, but still the point stands of Lock Haven is the second half team this year, because it feels like a team where, and this happens a lot with young groups, right? Where you get out to the game, there's all this energy, and maybe sometimes that comes back to bite you because maybe you're not as ready for the game as you thought you were. Like, that energy is getting to you, the anticipation, all that builds up, and sometimes it spills over into them making those mistakes at times. Where it feels like in the second half, when they get in the locker rooms, they're able to kind of settle their nerves a little bit. Coaches are able to talk to them, work through some of the stuff that was going wrong and work to fix it. They've always come out a lot better in those second half. So I don't really think it's an adjustment thing that they're making. It's more of a second half mindset.
I want to do my weekly tradition of making a cherry-picked, disingenuous stat line.
Okay.
To highlight a player.
Stats
because
lie.
Usually when I do that, what's that?
I said that's like the favorite thing about stats. There's this great YouTube video. It's by Foolish Baseball, a guy that I love watching, where how to lie with stats. Like, there are so many ways that if you can manipulate stats to get the example that you want. Like, for example, I'm pulling it's the worst run game Kutztown has had this season. It's also the best pass game they've had this season. So there's those things where I always love that where stats lie. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, this is going to be the last of the positives. I want to highlight one other play before we talk about the negatives and things to improve on. But Kutztown starting tailback Stephen Burker had 12 attempts for 47 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 3.9 yards a carry. Tucker Teets averaged over a yard more per carry than Kutztown starting tailback Stephen Burkhardt. Teets, 9 attempts, 47 yards, had a 12-yard rush, 5.2 yards a carry. They went with the 3 tailback setup with Robinson and I would say a 60 to 70% healthy Demir Green. Green actually rushed for a touchdown in that game. Tucker Teets, you better keep this kid around. I mean, you better keep this guy around because he is halfback 1 potential in this league, maybe as early as next season, because he has shown me enough against Bloomsburg and against Kutztown as someone in Teets who came into the season as the 5th string
maybe even sixth string.
Fifth
Yeah.
slash sixth string tailback, maybe just behind Tyson Florence. And he has, I don't know how you don't put him in the rotation of that three tailback system. It's going to be hard. You have a crowded room, but as long as Ezekiel Johnson is not healthy, I think especially Kareem Hathcock, but if one of those three aren't healthy, Teets needs to be getting a third of those carries like they've been doing.
Yeah, last week, obviously, Demir Green, I was told close to 90%. Like, they're expected he's going to be back to 100 for this week. But with him not at full strength, without Ezekiel Johnson and Kareem Hathcock for that game, they depended on Teets, and he showed out in a big way. Like you mentioned, he was the most impressive, I think, individual player for me in that game because he's going against the best he's going to see this season. I mean, that is the best defensive line. That is the best linebacking group. That is the best everything that he's going to see this season, and he performed that well. Even if Johnson and Hathcock come back, there has to be a way you get him on the field. Like, you just have to look at it as, not only has he played really well this season, but he's a redshirt freshman. You've got another 4 years maybe of him here. I mean, I'm salivating already thinking of next year, a backfield of Kareem Hathcock and Tucker Teets as a 1-2 punch. If you can have that next season, or even
Both
Lorenzo Robinson.
non-seniors, by the way. If it's Hathcock and Teets returning, you've got a junior and a redshirt sophomore.
Yeah, so you've got guys with another year and 2 years left there. Right? Teets, he really impressed me. Like I said, if I had to pick an individual player that I thought played the best, he is certainly the one I would go to. There's some other names in contention as well. Mekhi Watson, we mentioned, we think had his best game of the season as well.
Probably in his career.
Yeah.
I would go as far as to say Watson. One last player I want to highlight on the defensive side of the ball. Although they struggled in the passing game, I thought rushing game until Eli Cunningham came in the game and really closed things out. The rushing defense did pretty solid against one of the best rushing teams in the country. Luke Richard Rameau had another great game, but Rocco Doherty, I think, might have had his best. 8 tackles, 2 for loss. A lot of them are solo tackles to close the lanes and get into the mixer of things. I thought Doherty did well too, and I think calling this team positive against the rush, against, you have a team like Bloomsburg who has been running the ball well, Kutztown who runs it insanely well. I think we're safe to say that this is a part of the field that they can lean on, and as we transition into talking about Westchester, but to close out on Kutztown and get into the negatives, of course, I think this rushing defense is something that could carry them to around that 500 mark or even better this season. Yeah,
and there's the only other big positive I had was that they're getting healthier than we thought they were going to be. Coming into the game, we didn't know if Demir Green was going to play. We didn't know the severity of that injury. Same with Markel Morgan. Both of those guys played in that game. That's huge to get your second most senior offensive player and your most senior defensive player back for the back half of the season was huge for them. I was glad to see them both out there again. I've been told that they think Demir Green by next week against Westchester should be 100% ready to go. But I thought Rocco Doherty played amazing, kind of a guy that just has a nose for football. I mean, it felt like every play he was in and around the area, like no matter where it was. I always saw number 10 pop up in the pile somewhere, whether he was at the bottom getting a tackle or getting assisted. He was flying all over the field. But there were certainly some negatives to take away from the game. It took them, I think, 11 goal line plays to score a touchdown.
Let's transition to some of the negatives. It
Yeah.
can't be all positive when you lose 34-7, especially including against a top 5 team in the country. The conversions, very much an eyesore. I remember they had a failed turnover on downs on a goal-to-go stance early in the second half. Might have had it again in the first half, and then it required a 4th down, inside the red zone defensive penalty to give them more goal-to-go plays. I think on the broadcast, I re-listened to the broadcast, it took them 10 times on one drive. It was a 17-play, 47-yard drive, which is not something I've ever seen before. I mean, they were handing it to them on a platter, Kutztown, but Lock Haven, I think, should have scored at least double-digit points, 14, maybe even something close to 17 points in this game. But the conversion inside of the red zone, and the reason why we're highlighting is because it's not the first time we've said it this season either.
Yeah.
But the conversion in the red zone needs to improve.
And that's where you saw, I think, the difference in just the manpower up front with Kutztown and Lock Haven, because a lot of those, so to go back, it was they had a goal line stand, Kutztown a goal line stand. Lock Haven goes for 4 downs. They were inside the 2-yard line, didn't score. Then the next drive, they get all the way down to the goal line again. They go 4 plays, don't score. Kutztown penalty bails him out. Then on 3rd down, after that penalty, so it resets to first down. First down, they don't get anything. Second down, they don't get anything. Third down, they score. So it took them 10 or 11 plays to score in the red zone. And the big reason why, again, was because Kutztown could just stack the box up front, and their interior defensive line just completely shut down any sort of interior rush. Because a lot of those handoffs were up the middle to Demir Green, jet sweep to Justin Popovich, up the middle to Tucker Teets. They just kept trying to do it over and over again. And that's where you saw the difference up front, where Kutztown could just get through and kept pushing them backwards. I think even on that third down, they were inside the 1, and then it backed up to the 4 or 5 yard line because Kutztown just kept driving them slowly backwards on each play. So that's something that we'll need to improve in the back half of the season. But you're not going to see another defensive line as good as Kutztown is either. So are we going to see you maybe against some of the lighter defensive lines like a Millersville or Shippensburg or a Gannon, where can Lock Haven make that battle a little more even, or even win that battle to the point where they can have the running backs push forward? But I'm not too concerned about it. If it was something where, like if it's this week against Westchester, we see the same thing, I think that's where you start to get a little bit concerned. But when you're playing this best or second best defensive line you're going to play this season, it's really hard to score inside the goal line if you can't run up the middle.
Shout out to John Hogue, now in the building, engineer. That's who I was waving at during that rant there, Ryan. I wouldn't call it a rant. That sounds negative. But during your spiel, that sounds even disrespectful. All right, anyway.
Spiel's a good word.
Final thought that I had before turning to Westchester, the secondary, and I think a lot of it is because they've been battling through injuries. They were without Markel Morgan a couple weeks ago. You had Rasul wearing Poindexter, a redshirt freshman, who I think has done very well to get back into the mixture of things and get into his groove as the opposite defensive back. But now you had Troy Miller go down with an injury. I think the rotation at the secondary has been a bit of an issue for Lock Haven, and I think the Bald Eagles are going to be looking for consistency the final 4 or 5 games of the season that they have left, because I want to see consistency in the defensive backfield, and that's something that they've struggled with, combination of younger guys and injuries. But when you're taking on Westchester, a team that does not pass the ball particularly well, they'd rather run it. I want to see an improvement against the Golden Rams with the secondary, because Kutztown did very well in the passing game, better than usual.
Well, yeah, and that's what Lock Haven wants to do, is they want to force teams to throw the football. Though that only works if your secondary can pay off those, and they have a lot this season. Gotten a lot of interceptions in that secondary as well. I think, again, like, you look, quarterback Judd Novak in that game was 15 for 19, 220 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. That's kind of just what he does. I mean, he's a career 60+% completion percentage. He has only thrown 14 interceptions in his entire collegiate career. So it's a guy that he's super efficient, and he doesn't turn the ball over. And those are two things that Lock Haven, their defense really thrives on, is applying pressure so quarterbacks miss throws, but also when they miss throws, a lot of times Lock Haven picks them off. They weren't able to do that because Novak just never put the ball in harm's way, because he doesn't really feel like he ever has to. The team's good enough where they can win without him having to play hero ball. You mentioned against Westchester, if Lock Haven get the game plan they want, they're going to have to make Westchester throw the football, and if they do make the Golden Rams throw it around the yard, their secondary is going to need to start paying those off with some more turnovers. Again, they've done it weeks past, so there's no reason to assume that they won't. But there's one thing, before we move forward, I want to move back a little bit. That win against Bloomsburg.
We're talking about 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, the win against Bloomsburg, the 38-17 win, looks a whole lot better now, because Bloomsburg last week lost to East Stroudsburg, really good East Stroudsburg team, 35-38, and had a chance to win the game at the end. I mean, they had a drive to go win the game at the end of the game. So that Bloomsburg game.
And I would say, after watching, robbed by the referees a little bit. Now, you can't say that East Stroudsburg did not deserve to win at the end of the day. They played the better 60 minutes, but there was a controversial pass completion that should have, probably could have, would have gone the other way. That kind of played the difference in that East Stroudsburg would go down the field, kick a field goal, win the game. But as you mentioned there, they definitely had chances to come back late there.
So that makes that 38-17 win. That's my point, is even though Lock Haven lost last week, their strength of schedule got a little bit better, because that makes that Bloomsburg game look a lot better.
Well, they take another tough opponent on here for homecoming, the Golden Rams of Westchester. Anything you want to talk about before we get into this week?
From Golden Bears to Golden Rams.
Golden Bears to Golden Rams. But Westchester far from their golden age here at the moment. They come in with a record of 3-3, a 1-2 record in the PSAC East. This was a team, Ryan, that seemed destined to make a push for that second-best team in the East.
Yep.
And then an injury happened to their PSAC Offensive Player of the Year quarterback, Cooper Jordan. He got injured, Jordan, around the midway point of the game against East Stroudsburg. And since then, the wheels have fallen off a bit. They wound up getting blown out by the Warriors, 45-14, before getting upset by a pretty poor Shepherd team. And I think it's fair to call them poor this season.
Poor by their standards.
But poor by Shepherd standards. Yeah, this was a team in Shepherd that was in the national playoffs in the quarterfinals, less than 4 years ago.
Yeah, you have Tyson Badgett, now NFL quarterback, on the roster, yeah.
For sure. But that Shepherd team still, with a lot of transfers out, defeating Westchester 20-24, a game in which the Golden Rams were actually leading at Shepherd going into the fourth quarter. And what you have is a team in Westchester with a lot of talent, with a litany of players on both sides of the field. You've got some high-level transfers and a second-year prove-it head coach. And if they lose against Lock Haven, it is more likely than not they finish with 5 wins this season. With the amount of funding that school has, with the amount of money put into that program, and with the amount of talent on this team, that's simply an unacceptable record to have.
And when you're going through Westchester's schedule here, so they start the season, they won 30-13 at Bentley University. Shout out Bentley Food in Lock Haven. Then they go travel to Cal PA. They lose 24-26. That loss.
Just a 2-point loss.
Just a 2-point loss, but again, now we have the question of how good is that Cal team really? I mean, obviously, a Cal team.
Against us.
The next week, Cal went up to Lock Haven, or Cal hosted Lock Haven and did what they did. But Cal now with back-to-back losses, that game maybe doesn't look as impressive as at the time that it did. You win 34-16 against Seton Hill. That is probably Westchester's best win of the season. That's a very surprising Seton Hill team this year. Millersville, they won 38-7. That was a gimme. East Stroudsburg, 14-45 loss, rather, like you said. And then you mentioned the loss against Shepherd. So you call into question now, again, their best win of the season is versus Seton Hill. Because you beat Millersville, you beat Bentley. Bentley, if I'm not mistaken, a Division III college. So, correct? I think Bentley is a...
No, that's Bentley College. Bentley University is D2. Actually,
Okay.
a pretty good D2 team, too.
Oh, well, there you go. So maybe that is their best win of the season. Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking Bentley University.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard when there's two the same name. But anyway, so Westchester, again, that Cal game just kind of looks worse and worse as the weeks go on. Now you lose Cooper Jordan. Jordan last year, dual-threat quarterback at heart, ran all over Lock Haven a year ago, ran all over the PSAC in general. There's a reason why he was the PSAC East offensive player of the year. So if he is not good to go for that game, and as of right now, we don't know. It's only speculation. Again, he did not play against Shepherd, so we do not know whether he's going to go against Lock Haven or not. If he's not, then it becomes a game of a backup quarterback. You don't really know what you have there. But again, if they lost to Shepherd, that is a matchup that probably favors Lock Haven without Cooper Jordan. With Jordan, though, that Westchester team is incredibly dynamic.
My intel from Shepherd was that the injury for Jordan was not expected. It was a surprise to see him out against Shepherd last week. And I should note, actually, I won't even say that because it hasn't been released to the public. But I will say that the Jordan injury, for him to be out the entirety against Shepherd, was a surprise. So
maybe that was the thing that Lock Haven did against Cal.
Thing.
And maybe it was the thing like Lock Haven did with Cal, where it was kind of just a rest game. Like Ostrowski, we knew was hurt, or East Stroudsburg rather. You're right. Where it was kind of, hey, maybe our guy's good to go, but he's taking a beating. There's a question of an injury. Maybe we just sit him out. And Lock Haven, they sat Jackson Ostrowski out against East Stroudsburg, and he came out the next week and looked a lot better, a lot healthier. Maybe that's just the same thing that Westchester's doing.
We're going to spend a lot of time dwelling on this Cooper Jordan situation because this is a completely different team with and without him. Cooper Jordan, in his career, has 2,300 rushing yards and 22 touchdowns. Their two backups that they have played, Ethan Kohler and Colin O'Sullivan, combined for negative rushing yards. You've got two backups that do not run the ball, and you've got Cooper Jordan, who is the best dual-threat quarterback in the conference. Dual-threat in terms of passing and run. This is a guy that ran for over 100 yards against Lock Haven last year. Of course, as we mentioned,
offense.
What's up?
It's a different offense without him.
It's a different offense. It's a different team. And I think they have to be prepared for both. Now, I think it would be very entertaining for a neutral's perspective to see Jordan play because I want to see what this Lock Haven rush defense is really made of here, because they haven't really allowed a quarterback to properly, run all over them over 100 rushing. Or, they haven't allowed a quarterback to run all over them this season. I can recall Indiana's quarterback do well to scramble, get out of play, but he mostly crushed us through the air.
Yeah.
You're taking on a guy that can crush you on the ground. I want to see what this defense is made up against that.
So the one I'm looking at, I just pulled up the stats here. I was looking at the Cal game. Cal quarterback Purcell, or Roman Purcell, also a very good runner. Purcell in that game had
48. It seems like on my view, 48 net rushing yards after the one sack that.
So sacks in college, sacks count against them. So Purcell, Roman, 55 total yards, a net of 48 yards, 5.3 yards per carry on just 9 attempts. So Purcell did well. Maybe didn't run the ball as much as Westchester's quarterback Cooper Jordan might. But I think that's a good litmus test to where that's another good running quarterback, and Lock Haven did good enough. They didn't let him beat him on the ground. If Jordan plays, that's Westchester's game. We saw it last year. Jordan, it's a read option offense, sometimes even triple option at times. Get their fast guys out in space and let Jordan do the rest. If he does not go, or even if he does go, rather, it's going to be interesting to see what Lock Haven does in that game against Cal. They had, I think it was Kuron Walker a lot of the times, spy the quarterback. We might see the same thing with Cooper Jordan if he goes. If not, like I mentioned, it's a completely different Westchester offense. It is much more of a pro style, run the ball with your running backs, use play action to set up throws deep down the field. It's going to be two different game plans depending on who goes for Westchester, and that might, if they play this close enough to the chest and Lock Haven doesn't know who they're playing against until he walks out onto the field for the first snap of the game, that honestly might be something that plays in Westchester's favor.
No matter who the quarterback is, getting to the quarterback is going to be a big part of this. Westchester, as an offensive line as a whole, only has 2 multi-year starters on the team, none on the right side of the offensive line. Their left tackle, Jake Phipps, is only in his 7th career appearance. There are only 2 that have double-digit college appearances in their careers. Cole Evans, the left guard, and Lock Haven transfer Donovan Jones, who is at center for the Golden Rams. He is going to make his 35th career start, of course his 7th with Westchester. Getting to the quarterback, no matter who the quarterback is going to be a big key in this game. And I will add one other part to this as well. The transition to another factor of this team for Westchester, at least offensively, this team does not pass the ball a lot. They only average 188 passing yards a game. That's 14th in the PSAC. Of course, they're the 4th best running team. A lot of it due to the quarterback, but also a 2-time PSAC tailback in Khalil Owens. But if Jordan does not play, the key for Lock Haven defensively goes from the front 7 to 2 guys, Jayon Perry and Rasul Waring-Poindexter, because the 2 leading receivers for Westchester are Division I transfers.
Yep.
Matthew Uvara, I'm going to get that pronunciation in time for Saturday, out of Mount Monmouth. Ivan Thorpe out of VMI. Uvara didn't actually get a reception against Monmouth, but was being on special teams. Thorpe had 60 receptions at VMI, and he is listed as the Y receiver to Uvara, who is the Z receiver. So 2 Division I transfers. If Jordan is out, it falls on the secondary to get a win here. I think.
If Jordan's out, then it becomes it's a 2-man game now. You mentioned Iavara and Thorpe, but it's also that if you can shut down the pass, you can make them a one-dimensional offense. Again, with Jordan, this is a offense that will attack all 3 levels of the field. The run with the quarterback, run with the running back, throw it deep down the field. It is a true 3-option offense. If you take out Jordan, and then if you can take out the pass game, it only leaves them with 1 option left. So I think you're right. This all depends on who plays at quarterback, and that's why we're harping on it so much, because it changes so much about this game. But even with Jordan going, if they can shut down the pass game, if they can force Westchester to be more of a zone run type of team, that's where Lock Haven can play their best. They can have their linebackers come up near the line of scrimmage, send 6 or 7 guys at the quarterback, maybe get some sacks in there and force them into 3rd and longs and keep them off the field that way. Because Westchester, we saw, don't throw the ball deep a lot. They're more of a, we're going to run it, and we're going to use that to set up some dink and dunk play action, kind of just move the ball down the field 5 yards at a time through the air, and that's how they beat you. It's a much more of attrition type of offense. If Lock Haven can take away the short and intermediate routes of the field, make Westchester try to throw it deeper down the field, I think that's where you're going to see some more interceptions and more turnovers for Lock Haven, and that's how they're going to be able to win the game.
One of the plaudits of doing this podcast later in the week is that my notes are done, so I'm able to come up with some silly things. So I'm going to talk about 2 stupid things I learned before talking about the defense, because that's big. The stupid thing number 1, Khalil Owens, who is the senior tailback for Westchester, is my age.
Wow.
He is my age. He started off at Seton Hill in 2017. I don't know where he went in the 4 years after that. I wasn't able to research it. Then he showed up at Clarion in 2021, became a 2-time All-PSAC West tailback, both second team, and now is in his 3rd college in 8 years with Westchester. The second is that Westchester has the best name for a position I've ever heard of and the worst name for a position I've ever heard of. You remember the best name. Juke Peaker is the tailback. He is the backup tailback, 31 attempts this season. They also have the worst name for a position I've ever heard. Their punter is named Dylan Shank, which is might be the most incredible dichotomy of a position I've ever seen.
Hey, it might be, if he misses the punt there, it's good for broadcaster's perspective, though. I mean, that one's just laid up to you on a silver platter. He shanked it.
It's almost
better for
I
a
almost
punter.
can't say it because it's too obvious.
It's
you
too
know
on
what
the
I mean?
nose.
It's kind of like I don't know.
So I'd rather have a punter name. If I had to choose, though, I'd rather a punter named Shank than a kicker named Shank. Kicker named Shank might be a little bit worse, but
I will say, Dylan Shank, 40 yards a punt, 4 inside the 20 this season. So he's not living up to his name. So
just a funny name.
Good for him. The big key, I think, defensively, when you look at how Westchester has done rushing, they're about middle of the park. In fact, they are. They average 150 rushing yards allowed a game. The pass defense, though, is where this team is at their best. They average 140 passing yards a game. That is second best in the conference. I'm going to highlight Jameer Reyes and Caleb Brown. Jameer Reyes, a transfer out of Army in his 3rd season, I think, or 2nd season. He has 3 interceptions this season. Caleb Brown has 2 interceptions this season, also an experienced man, but he spent the last 2 years, Brown, with Westchester. Before that, he played at Penn State University. He played in 4 games, including against Arkansas in the Outback Bowl, funny enough. So he's in his 2nd year or 3rd year with Westchester. Very experienced secondary. In fact, 3 out of the 4 are seniors. The only difference is Jameer Reyes, who is a transfer out of Army, but even he has experience. Very experienced secondary. This is going to have to be a game where Jackson Ostrowski, it has his very best. And I should also know, they have a 2-time All-American at linebacker in Connor Noble. Very experienced is the secondary. And that linebacking core is not much worse.
Yeah, Noble, a transfer out of Temple. That's a big thing with Westchester is a lot of Division I transfers.
All-American honorable mention.
Yes.
I just want to add that little point. But still, it goes to show how good this team is.
Yeah, and this team is really good. Again, then you see the funding that Westchester gets, right? You look at all the Division I transfers they have on this roster, them being in the Philadelphia area, a really hotbed of talent there as well. But you mentioned for Lockheed, I think that plays into their hands pretty well in regards to Lock Haven perspective, because they want to run the football. That's what they're built their offense on, is they're going to run it up the middle, and if they can have that successful enough, they won't really need to depend on the pass as much, so they won't be trying to throw it deeper down the field, which, as you mentioned, is where Westchester is at its best. But if Westchester, what I'm interested to see is how their defense plays, because we've seen for Lock Haven a lot this season. What are the 2 plays they love more than anything? Halfback draw up the middle and wide receiver screen. Those are the ways their offense moves the football. You delayed handoff up the middle, or you throw it to Mekhi Watson and let him do the rest of the work. If Westchester plays up at the line a little bit more and they feel confident enough in their corners to play press man coverage and take away those screen passes and force Lock Haven to throw down the field, the Bald Eagles might be in trouble. It's all going to depend on if they can run up the middle. If Demir Green is healthy, if Tucker Teets plays, if Kareem Hathcock and Ezekiel Johnson, we'll see what happens with those two. If Lock Haven can establish the ground game, they shouldn't have to throw the football as much to where it could be an issue. But I'm also worried about the turnovers, because we saw in the game against Kutztown, there was about 3 passes that could have been intercepted that the Golden Bears didn't come up with. Ostrowski ended the game with 0 turnovers. Like I said, there were about, by my count, 3 passes that could have and maybe should have been picked off. If they can limit the turnovers in that game, if they can win the turnover battle, even if it's 1-0 or if it's 2-1, if they can beat Westchester in the turnover game, and they can run their offense the way they want to, which is run the football, it's going to be a fast football game because both teams are going to be running a lot. So it's not going to be a long-standing game by any means. But it's interesting how similar these offenses are and how they want to run. It's really just going to come down to who can run the football better.
I will say, we talked a lot about Westchester health. Lockhaven, I think if I don't know anything, but
Yeah, no,
having a healthy tight end in Jaden Huntington, or at least a productive tight end in his stay, is going to be big because I've watched IUP, and dare I say, the second half against Glenville State run press man and completely take out the passing game.
Yeah.
And now that has not been an issue since Ostrowski has come back, even against East Stroudsburg with the backups in the game, and Rob Footman and company.
Cole Transu.
There's the other one. But, we kind of ignored the issues at creating separation when Popovich and Watson got very confident in creating space. But if Westchester's secondary is as good as people are saying, that might also come back to rear its ugly head. So now,
that's the thing, is how confident is Westchester that they can play press man? Because, again, we've not seen many teams do it. IUP did it and completely shut down Lock. And they couldn't move the football when IUP did that.
I will say Bloomsburg also did it, and it did not work.
Because that's what I was going to get to with in the Kutztown game and even in the Bloomsburg game as well. When they had Ostrowski back, it reopened the passes over the middle of the field. That was the big thing, was now they could target guys like Popovich in that 10-yard, in between the hashes part of the field, where now they force their linebackers to back up. It allows you to run the football, but it also allows you to kind of push those corners back because now they have to worry about you throwing it deeper down the field. But if Lockhaven cannot open up the middle of the field, Westchester is just going to play press man the whole way, and we saw it happen against IUP when teams that are good enough can do that. I think the one thing I'm really worried about is if Westchester trusts their corners enough to play press man, Lockhaven's going to have to throw over the middle of the field, and it's been kind of a mixed bag at times when they do.
And with that, it is time for our favorite tradition. It is our score prediction. So both of us are a perfect 6-0 when predicting Lockhaven games this season, but you have a slight edge in the spread. We get the spreads from D2 Football's blogosphere. We were both correct that Kutztown would win and cover, so you are now 5-1 on the season against the spread. I am 4-2. The spread, actually, let's do a predict the spread because we've got 90 seconds.
Well, I know what it is.
What do you think? Oh, you know what it is?
I know what it is. I did see it already.
It is -3.5. Westchester are the favorites. I think that's a very good spread.
Yes.
I've seen people go back and forth. So now for the predictions in what will be, I think, the hardest game of the season, which I've said for like the second week in a row now for Lockhaven. Who is going to win and what?
Well,
It's gonna be the final score.
I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to give if Jordan plays, if Jordan doesn't play. I'm not going to do the two. We're going to go straight one here. I think no matter who plays, I think Lockhaven wins the game. I think this is a 1-point game. I think this is 28-27. I mean, it's going to be right there. So I'm going to say Lockhaven wins. Again, Hubert Jack effect. I'm going to keep saying it until it doesn't work, that Lockhaven is going to play a close game at home no matter who they play. So I'm going to take minus the spread, so whoever wins, it's going to be within that 1 to 2 3-point range. But I will take Lockhaven to win by 1.
I think that this is a game where if Lockhaven beats Westchester by 21 points, I will not be surprised.
Yeah.
And if Westchester beats Lockhaven by 21 points, I won't be surprised. Westchester is the wild card team in the PSAC, a team that can take Cal all the way to the depths of the trenches, and a team that can lose to Shepherd, who are having their worst season since joining the PSAC. When Westchester beat Lockhaven by 11 points last year, it was the closest Lockhaven had ever come to beating Westchester since Lockhaven moved back into the PSAC East. I am going to say that it is, oh my gosh, I'm scared to say it.
Go for it.
29-28 Lockhaven wins on a 2-point
So
conversion.
we are both.
That's what I think.
So we are both. Lockhaven wins by 1 point.
We are
I'm
both-
28-27. You're
yes.
29-28. I love it.
Yes.
Love it.
I'm scared.
Me
I'm
too.
scared because this is a tough one, but we both say that Lockhaven take the points, take the win. It's homecoming. There's homecoming magic. Lockhaven's been waiting 3 years for that upset win. And Cooper Jordan being a game-time decision, I think, only adds to that. I think Lockhaven takes it on a 2-point conversion, 29-28 to win the game. They get aggressive, and it plays to their benefit. Any closing thoughts?
No, excited for the game. You mentioned the homecoming energy. I think this is a game that Westchester's such a wild card, not even with the quarterback situation, just in general. This is a really weird year for the PSAC. A lot of big upsets have already happened. I'm sure there's going to be some coming down the road. This wouldn't be an upset win, I don't think, for Lock Haven. I think these are two fairly even teams, so we'll see how the game goes.
I think in terms of program pedigree it is, though.
Yeah.
And I think that means something.
That's fair. I'm talking like just purely teams on the field. I think they're very similar. Program-wise, yes, it would be an upset for Lock Haven to beat Westchester, but I think this is going to be, like I said, a dogfight of a football game. There's going to be a lot of weird stuff that happens because that's Lock Haven football. There's always some weird stuff that happens in these games. That's really Division II football as a whole. But I think Lock Haven wins. I am incredibly unconfident in that pick because, again, we don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback. We don't know how this team is going to look coming off last week's loss. Again, we noted all the positives about it, but what do the players take away from a 34-7 game? I'm sure they're not as positive as we were. So there's a lot up in the air, but I'm really excited. I think either way, this is going to be a really good football game.
If Lock Haven beats Westchester, it would be their second win against Westchester since World War II. That's going to wrap it up. There's our final stat. You can see we love doing it late in the week. We
just
have
some
these
weird stats.
But that's going to wrap things up here from Avis. Tune into Lock Haven football. Homecoming this Saturday. Of course, Jersey Shore football at Scranton. If you're tuning in today, it'll come tomorrow. Friday, of course, is when that begins. But that's going to wrap it up for Ryan States. I'm Nicholas Severini. You've been tuning in to the Haven Nation Show.